Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my long overdue first encounter with the Dutch micro brand Batavi. Now they have been around for 3 or 4 years now and have earned a reputation for making interesting designs at good prices. Great use of colour in some of their watches as well. Today is their most interesting design at a pretty awesome price. I honestly don't think what I say today will really matter all that much. I think this one is going to sell very, very well indeed because it brings the looks of much more esoteric micro brands like Ming, Sartori Ballard and Atelier, but for a fraction of the cost. The super early birds on these are just €399, which is 430 USD or thereabouts. Now, you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by Batavi. They are taking pre-orders direct through their website for this one. I will of course therefore leave a link to that site in the description of the video. All the information is there for this watch and I would recommend having a good look through it all if you like what you see here today. It is a very pretty watch. Let's flip the camera and look at some pretty pictures. Let's get the dirty topic of money out the way early then. These are being launched at 1700 Amsterdam time, Friday the 8th of September 2023, and between 1700 and 1800 you can grab one for €399. Now I've heard of limited early bird specials, but I've never heard of a 1 hour limited early bird special. Prices then increase incrementally thereafter, so as always, if you like what you see, sign up for the newsletter, set an alarm, get in early. 2-year warranty as well, as noted at the bottom of the screen. On to the packaging. It's a cardboard outer box and then one of these little bifold inner boxes. They are becoming increasingly common in the micro brand space, particularly amongst these slightly better quality micros. They're actually quite nice and they don't take up a lot of space. You also get a Rolex style plastic seal hang tag, which is another nice little touch, even if it just ends up living in the box. There will be a warranty card as well, but this is a prototype, so it was not supplied with one. 3 colours are available. There's a blue, a grey, and what I think is the pick of the bunch, this one. But what colour actually is it? Depending on the light, my chosen camera lens and my chosen camera settings, this one varies from almost a kind of russet brown here through a relatively intense purple and back to an eggplant colour, which is somewhere in between the two. Clearly then it can look like any or all of these colours depending on conditions. I think aubergine / eggplant is the best term to describe the colour, to describe the dial under most circumstances. Let's have a good look at this dial then. It's a flat dial with a 3D pattern and it can be thoroughly mesmerising if you view it like this from an angle and from quite close up. There's a real optical illusion effect that you get from it. It looks much deeper than it could ever possibly be given how slim the watch is. Now, Batavi reference fish scales and something to do with the Dutch fishing industry. That's fair enough. I think petals is probably a prettier analogy for the patterning here. Now, because of the size and the differences of those scale / petals, smaller towards the pinion, larger towards the edges, the dial looks like it drops down in the middle to meet the pinion, but it actually doesn't. Very, very nice effect overall. As I said, you would normally find this type of guilloche dial patterning in the more artisanal micro brands for much higher prices. Talking of which, I may as well show you the watches that Batavi are undoubtedly referencing here. The brand owner Uger makes no secret of the fact that he wants to bring the look of Ming, Sartori Ballard and Atelier, but without what can be the eye-watering price tags. On to the dimensions and specifications then. Now I had to double measure this just to make sure it was indeed 39mm in diameter. I think it seems a little bigger because of the minimal bezel and because of the spectacular dial. Only 10.2mm thick though, and with a nice compact lug to lug of 45.8mm. It's 20mm between the lugs. The bracelet does taper down to 18 and then back up to 20 at the clasp. Sized up for me, on the bracelet it weighs in at 131 grams. There's 100 meters of water resistance, including a screw down crown, which I know a lot of people, including me, will be pleased to see. Crystal is flat sapphire, and the movement is a no-date specific Miyota 9039. You can't see it because there is a super simple, super sensible stainless steel screw-down case back without a display window. Now really, you should be looking at the dial today and not at the case back, so let us consider it no further. Suffice to say the Miyota is a good choice here, not because of the 28,800 vibrations per hour, leading to a smooth 8 tick per second sweep of the second hand, because that little stump in the middle is the second hand, and you'll be hard pushed to see it sweeping at all. It's a good choice because it's slim and it keeps the overall thickness of the watch down. The second hand will show you the watch is working, but that's all. You're not timing to the second here. In fact, you're not even timing to the minute here, are you? There are no minute markers anywhere on the dial, only Arabic numerals on the hours printed on the underside of the sapphire crystal. I've only seen this once elsewhere, and that was on a Ming 1709. Enough said. Now, it's an interesting three-piece construction with a fixed concave high-polished bezel on top and that simple screw-on case back underneath. It's a dead flat mid-case, but it has a scalloped, bead-blasted recess on either side. It's about 1 millimeter deep, covers most of the side profile. Haven't seen this too often before. The only watch that springs to mind is the Marlowe Pacific. It's nicely executed, but I don't really see what it brings to the design overall. That's just me personally. You tell me, what do you think? Leave me a comment, yay or nay, for the bead blasted side case. Anyway, the crown is very simple, 6.7mm. It does the job when it's required to, but it actually screws in quite neatly. It's got a very low profile, which helps with on-wrist comfort. The bracelet also helps with on-wrist comfort. Jubilee style, but quite long links, all brushed, no polished, unlike your typical Jubilee. Now, female end links, quick release end links. It's just push pins holding it together, but I'll forgive that because money has clearly gone elsewhere today. It's clearly gone into the dial. Now, the clasp is okay. They could definitely have gone butterfly here and it would have worked just as well with this style of watch, but this dive style is fine. It does at least have a heap of micro adjust holes, 6 in total, double security pusher with the brand name etched portrait style on its pressed upper portion. You do get a sneak peek of one of the moans and niggles here though. It took me about 4 attempts to get it to lock shut. This is a prototype though, but of course they will need to make sure production units have a bit more positivity to their action. On wrist it wears perfectly well despite that very flat case because it isn't all that big, and so the case profile doesn't matter as much as it would if it was a bigger watch. I'll go back and forth between the leather strap and the bracelet as appropriate. Now, I don't know how much this leather strap is. I presume it's available as a cost option. It's reasonable enough, but I don't think it was the right colour for this particular dial version. I think this red is too warm, and this one should be paired with a grey or a camel coloured Epson instead to bring out the colour of the dial. But this is what they sent me, so this is what I can show you. It's nice and comfortable on the bracelet anyway, plenty of adjustability in that clasp, meaning you can wear it exactly how you want to. Now, I've chosen to wear it quite loose here. If you normally prefer 40 plus millimeters, don't worry about this one being slightly smaller. I think it wears like a 40 and the dial has so much presence that it just doesn't look like a small watch. And that's the 2 pocket shots to finish us off. I thought I would vaguely colour match my shots and t-shirt to that multi-tonal dial. Shorts! Spring has sprung. I'm back in shorts for the next 9 months of the year. Hallelujah. Alright, moans and niggles. Nothing fundamental, nothing I would consider a deal breaker, but I do have a couple of minor niggles here and there. The loom. Those painted Arabics and skeletonized tapered hands both feature loom, BGW9 by the looks of it, but there's not a lot here to be honest. It's just not designed to have amazing loom. There's some here, but there isn't much, and what is there is gone well before the end of my test. The leather strap appears to be reasonable quality, but it doesn't appear to be quite large enough to fit between those lugs. There's a bit of visible gap, you can see the spring bars, there's a bit of wobble, and the strap is not quick release. Now that is a shame because the bracelet is quick release. Again, perhaps this will be remedied because only having one half of the equation tool-free renders that half rather redundant, does it not? Again, something I hope they reserve for production units. You saw it earlier on. This clasp is a bit intermittent. It gives you a kind of false engagement unless you really push quite hard on it. You can see here it pops in and out a couple of times. It's not the only clasp I've had this problem with though over the years. I'm looking at you, Omega C Master. And the dial printing looks good from arm's length, but begins to look less good under my most intense macro lens at 4K resolution. Practically speaking, you're not going to notice it, unless of course you have macro lenses attached to each eyeball of course, but no doubt you spotted it here in this review, so I'm obliged to point it out. And one subjective complaint, I'm not a huge fan of the scallops, the bead blasted indents on the side of the case. I think this is an attractive and elegant watch, and this style of case doesn't really do anything to add to the elegance. Perhaps Batavi just wanted a point of difference here between their watch and the ones that I cited previously. They certainly got that, but I'm not sure I would have gone that route myself. But like I said, nothing fundamental, no deal breakers. The Batavi Atelier still has a huge amount of appeal because of that dial. You're looking at several thousand for a Ming, if you can find one, to get the same effect. Now if you grab an alarm and get one of these for the early birds in the first hour, there really isn't much here to complain about, considering it's in the low $400 price bracket. You add a nice bracelet, a good movement, and some decent water resistance on top of that, and it looks really appealing. I am delighted to have finally had a chance to review a Batavi. I think if they keep launching models like this, they'll become an even bigger player in the micro market over the next 5 years. So there you have it. Looks that normally cost thousands of dollars, now available for only a few hundred. Not perfect. I'm not a massive fan of the side case, as I'm sure you're now well aware. It's not a kind of luxury watch either, but for the price, it doesn't need to be. I think this one is going to go really, really well, and if they can sharpen up the printing on the glass for these production units, they will make a lot of people very happy with this one. If you want a nice dial but have a bigger budget, check out a Ming. If you have a smaller budget, check out an Addy's Dive. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. I'll see you again in the next one.